we were meeting almost continually in the Science Collective, and that, you see, that at this point was more, by the time we had fought the fight on feminist studies and got it established, and Crow was beginning to expand, science was the thing that was taking up most of our time, because running a journal is something you can't just sit and argue about and then go away and forget. We have to produce the stuff. And the fact that we were all engaged in these parallel overlapping activities meant that some of the things that we talked about while we had our feminist studies hats on really had in mind, well, how's that gonna affect this special issue of Science, or vice versa.
Was that a positive impact?
I think it was a positive impact. I think it was very healthy for us that we had this journal, partly because we had a sense from the influx of papers coming in from all over the world of the kinds of things people were doing. And you get it raw. You don't just get it with the finished product. And you also get it in a multidisciplinary fashion, because since there were relatively few of us and we were getting papers on every topic under the sun, we all had to be assigned to read and think about papers that were far outside our disciplines and try to think, who do I conceivably know who might have something to say about this? And it was infinitely mind-expanding to do this. And so that helped us begin to think in larger ways about what the discipline of feminist studies itself might be. I think it would have been a much impoverished experience if it hadn't been for Science, and it came at just the right time.
How did that connection get made? I know it's a rotating situation, but how was it?
Well, when Catherine Stimson, the founding editor, stepped down, or was about to step down, and wanted to have the experience of having it be run by a group of scholars together in a university that was large enough to sustain it, there were only a few places in the country for which that could be true, and it was known that there was an opportunity now to bid for Science. And we got, I can't even remember whose idea it was, but somebody had the idea that we should make a bid for it, that we could do it ourselves.
Did you say, whoa, this is too much, we're trying to...
No, I think we were all very excited about it. Yeah. I remember those meetings more vividly than the other meetings, because they were, it was kind of scary what we were taking on, but I remember sitting around and just somebody, it must have been either a feminist studies meeting or a Crow meeting, somebody brainstorming and saying, you know, this is possible. Science is coming up for grabs. Wouldn't it make a big difference to us to have this journal? And people saying gulp, but then saying sure it would. In the same meeting. I mean, it wasn't as though we all went off and thought about it for 6 months. We all decided it was worth doing, and we convinced Barbara, who was at that point more peripheral in her department and had some skill as an editor, that she could be the editor of Science, and we would all support her, and we would all be her collective, and we would all do it together. And it seems, in retrospect, as bold as it could be. I mean, to think we could take on a journal. We knew nothing about running a journal. But it was very important that we did.
Who was at that time the primary leader, if you will, of feminist studies? Okay. And
Shelley and Diane.
Okay. And your involvement was core, but not
well,
as a supervisory?
I don't know. Somebody else might say I was at that level. I don't know. It's hard for me to judge. I was certainly part of the
Was it truly
4
a
or
collective
5.
kind of?
It was truly a collective. It was wonderful. And that's why it's hard to say there was a leader. I named Shelley and Diane because of the force of their personalities. But they were not more... They weren't leaders of the rest of us. They didn't sort of order us around or tell us what to do or send us reminder notes. Diane's not as organized as I am. So, I mean, it was very much a collective, and the only reason I named them as the leaders is because of the force of their personality and the force of their intellect. Not because they had some hierarchical... I mean, it was one of the best examples that I know of, the best in my own personal experience of what feminist cooperation was like at the best stage of the 70s, was what Science was like.